Okay, thank you to all you diligent members of the Shining Waters Regional Council who did not take advantage of the opportunity to fight rush hour traffic and rush in quotes home after our afternoon session. I want to begin by offering our thanks to those who helped us to reflect on our theme today. I hope it will help us to focus as we move into the discussion of the proposals before us. And there are 3 proposals before us this evening. One proposal is technically on the floor because it was introduced before we broke for dinner, and so we will return to complete that. Susan Eagle has already presented the proposal SW 2024-04, Reducing Homelessness in Canada. We will now have the opportunity for people to speak to the proposal, either to ask questions or make comments. There will be a 90-second time limit for each speaker. Please pay attention to the timer on screen. At my discretion, the time may be extended where circumstances warranted to allow for equitable participation. And if the discussion goes beyond 20 minutes, the time may be reduced for further speakers. And we will conclude with an opportunity for a 60-second final comment by Susan. So this is the opportunity for any member of the court to speak. If you're online, please put your question in the chat or raise your virtual hand. Yes, go ahead, please.
Thanks again, Suzanne. I think you know where I'm going to go. In terms of asking or making a comment on this, I think in general, this is a very good proposal, but I'm just wondering how it is that there could be consideration in encouraging communities of faith to do what they can to support affordable housing in this region. And if there is already a policy, if you could just let us know about that. If not, is there consideration for including or incorporating any of this in this proposal? Thank you.
I will ask Susan to respond to questions in her closing comments. Are there any other members of the court who wish to speak? Seeing none, Susan, would you care to respond to that question and make any concluding comments?
Sure, thank you. In response to the concern that Hewitt has raised, it goes without saying that we would encourage all communities of faith to be working on affordable housing, and where they have resources or potential to be involved in affordable housing, absolutely. We heard earlier that Kindred Works is working on some projects already. But I also said in my opening remarks that we could liquidate every building that the United Church has, and we would not be able to deal with the significant number of people who are homeless in our community. And that it's that whatever we can do locally, but also pushing for advocacy and political will and funding so that all levels of government are involved in this. This proposal is looking at what government can do, what we need to do to advocate for government to be doing those things.
All right. It has been moved by Susan Eagle and seconded by Brian McIntosh that Shining Waters Regional Council adopt the proposal SW 2024-04, Reducing Homelessness in Canada, as presented. You have heard the motion before you. If you wish to vote yes, would those on site please raise your voting card? And those online, please raise your virtual hand. Participants on the phone, please use *9. And if there are multiple users sharing a computer, please type your vote in the chat to Diane.
The votes have been counted? Yeah.
Yes, for the yes. For the yes, yeah.
Yes, the votes have been counted for the yes. Sorry, I got distracted. We just have a bit of a sound problem for David. He's gonna get it.
Okay, sorry, I just had a tech problem with my sound system. And Kim, who is so good at running around with microphones, is now running around with my sound receiver. All those who wish to vote no on site, please raise your voting card. Online, please raise your virtual hand. On the telephone, please use *9.
Yep, the no's have been counted.
All right, thank you. If you wish to abstain with those on site, please raise your voting card. Online, raise your virtual hand. And on the telephone, please use *9.
The votes have been counted.
The vote is 80 yes and none no and 3 abstentions.
The motion is carried. Thank you. Our next proposal, SW 2024-03, support of Broadview, is a proposal addressed to the General Council. Our role is to decide whether the Regional Council agrees with the proposal. If we agree, we must pass the proposal on to the General Council. If the Regional Council does not agree with the proposal, we must decide whether or not to pass it on to the General Council. The Regional Council may include its own recommendations if it passes the proposal on. The proposal before us is SW 2024-03, support of Broadview. The proposal originates from Grace United Church in Barrie. We had the opportunity to consider this proposal previously at the May 22nd Town Hall meeting, and it was posted on the website for you to read. I invite Susan Eagle to make opening comments in presenting the proposal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I am presenting this tonight on behalf of Grace United Church. It comes from the official board. It grew out of the outreach team at Grace, who were concerned as they were meeting with people and renewing subscriptions for Broadview to discover that there was a concern about the survival of Broadview magazine. So the proposal that you have before you tonight follows the mandate of what we are to present, and I want to just identify a couple of things in the opening of the proposal. That identifies the significant drop in revenue that Broadview has received over the last few years. In the background, there's just one paragraph that I want to highlight, and that is the magazine has given not only local updates and pertinent information about what is happening across the United Church, but also provided insight and analysis of various theological, ethical, and political positions the United Church has established to a wider audience. Under the why is this important, I want to just highlight the first paragraph there. We live at a time when false news and false narratives consume much of the public information output. As well, diminished funding for all sources of media and public information means that often there is no in-depth coverage of important issues. Many people express a yearning for deeper understanding and a means to engage with the contentious and complex issues of our day. We also noted too in our proposal that Broadview seeks to provide a publication that is affordable for people within the United Church and across Canada, and therefore just subscription-based is a bit of a challenge. Part 4 outlines what it is that we are calling on this court and the general counsel to do. This court, we're asking you to pass this on to general counsel. We're asking that we affirm the value and importance of Broadview Magazine as a publication, affirm it as a means by which United Church people, as well as others, learn about the United Church and issues that require in-depth ethical consideration, make use of the 100th year anniversary of the United Church to help lead a subscription campaign to encourage United Church members to make better use of Broadview, and finally, to restore funding to at least a level that supports United Church content, which is approximately $80,000, not including postage, and renew some advertising content. We are not directing general counsel to do that. We are asking that general counsel might do these things, because we know that when we pass it on, it goes to another court for their consideration.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chair, I move that motion, and it is seconded by Deborah Hardwick, who is our lay representative from the church, who was hoping to be online. And if not, we'll have to find another seconder.
Thank you. This is now an opportunity for people to ask questions or make comments. If you are present in the room, please come to a microphone. Remember, please introduce yourself before speaking. Go ahead.
It's Michael Diet from North Brimley United Church. Just a comment and a question follow. Many organizations with print magazines have in recent years converted them to an electronic format, as there's a considerable cost savings involved in doing so. Obviously, there's pros and cons to that. I just wondered if that step has been considered for Broadview Magazine to reduce the costs as opposed to raising the actual amount allocated to it.
Are there any other questions or comments? Remember, if you're online, please raise your virtual hand or type your question into the chat to Diane. Yes.
Hewitt Holmes, Collier Street United Church. I come to this question of this proposal with a number of wonderings. As a racialized person, I don't think this is a good way of engaging sanctuary. Because I think Broadview, not because I think Broadview is not a good magazine, but I believe there are other ways to engage and communicate with the church and engage the information around the church. And I don't find this $80,000 as a way of engaging that. And secondly, is there any conversation, has there been any conversation with the General Counsel about its present relationship with Broadview, because this directive might not go very far because of some things that have happened recently.
Any other questions or comments? There's a question online in the chat. I'll read the question. I am generally in support of this motion. However, I do not feel comfortable moving forward with the last point as part of the proposal. The United Church of Canada has had to make many funding cuts to live into the reality of the current church and the finances available. I serve on the Canadian Council of Churches Governing Board, and the United Church of Canada has dramatically cut funding to them, as well as other vital programs to the church. Where would the funding for this $80,000 come from? And why should Broadview be prioritized over other United Church of Canada and ecumenical funding that was cut? And that came from Jessica Stevenson. Yes.
Patty Rogers, Bondhead United Church. I just have a question for clarification. Restore funding to at least a level that supports United Church content, approximately $80,000. Is that $80,000 per year or $80,000? So $80,000 per year. Thank you.
Okay, there's a question, Ellen. Oh, Ellen. Would you please unmute yourself and turn on your camera?
Yes, I'm I was speaking in favor of the motion. Is it appropriate to do so at this time? Or is this just questions?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
Sorry, could you repeat your question, please? Sorry.
Yes, I'm wishing to speak in favor of this motion. Is it appropriate to do that at this time, or is this just for questions?
Sorry, and I'm juggling. Sorry, I was trying to get my sound.
Yes, you can speak in favor of it right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, I think Broadview is an excellent progressive Christian magazine. It's been part of publications by the United Church and for 195 years, going way back, and it provides a continuing voice for progressive Christianity throughout the country, and is in fact followed by journalists elsewhere around the world. And so I think that, you know, the original funding that was provided to Broadview was quite appropriate, and that the cutbacks were, you know, a serious mistake. And I would urge members of this court to support this resolution, even though it's just a request, and to continue to support Broadview. Thank you.
Thank you. Here, and then another question online.
Hi, Sandy McKenzie from Trinity United in Newmarket. I'd like to speak in favor of this proposal, but I do have a question just for clarification. The last point, approximately $80,000, not including postage. Is that $80,000 the additional amount that you'd like applied, or is there some, say, $20,000 already, and then it's just topping it up to 80,000?
Thank you. And online, Lang has a question or comment.
Lang, could you, oh, you heard us. Great. I
Yeah.
see you.
I just wanted to speak in favor of the motion. And the concern that I have is that they should also be encouraged to continue other forms of communication, just as some of the other magazines are. I think they've done some of that, but we do have to recognize that magazines seem to be on the way out in general as a way of communicating. I support the issues that they raise and cover, so I hope they'll be creative in looking at some alternative ways to supplement communication at this stage, and perhaps it may take over in the future for communicating. The other thing about the book that I think is good is it reaches outside the church. It includes the church, but it reaches outside the church, and it's got quite a bit of some support from not only other churches, but other interested people because of the quality of the articles. And certainly they had recognized for its quality, which I think is an honor. Thank you.
Next online, Constance Dilly. Would you please unmute yourself and make sure your microphone or camera is turned on?
Constance, can you
Okay.
thank you.
Yes, yes. Yes, the last speaker mentioned something that I wanted to mention, and that is that in a general way, print publication is in a really bad state these days. I do not think that transferring the content to an electronic form is the answer, because people are getting terribly fatigued by trying to read stuff online. When you've got a print magazine in your hand, you can pass it to a friend, you can mail it, you can leave it. It's a very different medium of communication. And I think that Broadview is an excellent publication. It has won awards, and I strongly urge you to support this resolution.
Thank you. Also online, Sung Ran, would you unmute yourself and make sure your camera is turned on?
Yes, I
Thank
have
you.
a sort of a clarification question on why the cutting of fund has happened, and then how this cutting of fund has affected to the publication of Broadview. So can you explain more about that? So I asked 2 questions.
Thank you. Question here and then over here.
I don't know how many of you received an email today from Broadview asking for support, but I did. And this little card here in the pews is a card that they're using here in this congregation to raise $80,000, as a matter of fact. And they're suggesting that doesn't matter how insignificant your amount might be, but it's important. Each $25 is important. And right now, Broadview is having a campaign. Somebody is going to match your dollars. So my $25 donation that I put in today, well, at lunch hour, is going to go to $50 for Broadview. Carry up that campaign and let's get people donating. Right now, here in this room, take out your phone and respond. We need to have this magazine in our hands. It's important. It's there in living color. And it tells us about the issues that our world is facing, and it has our church issues too. And it puts us out on the newsstand as well. And we've carried this, the history of this has gone on since I don't know when, don't know how, when it began, long before the United Church was formed.
Yeah.
My
Thank you.
grandfather wrote for the Christian Guardian.
We'll turn now here.
I am Bart Boniface from St. Mark's United. I just wanted to say that when live in today's world now where our news is coming from a diminishing number of resources, the newspapers are sharing content, sharing words. You can go and read an article online, and you could search 10 articles online, and 9 out of 10 are coming from the same source. They've just been tweaked. And I think it's essential that we have a voice in the United Church that is a voice of our own and a voice that we can trust, and I fully support the motion.
Barry Reeder, formerly from Jane Finch Community Ministry, I'm now retired, but I would like to support this motion with Broadview, but I just wanted to make some few clarifications. They already do it online. I get it sent to me electronically on a regular basis. So they are doing that, but I think the problem is the printing and the other costs to maintain that. So it's probably been a two-edged sword in some ways, in that going online, in addition to printing, they've lost some of their subscriptions because I get it free. The second thing I just did want to point out as well, that they are getting some advertising. Unifaith has an advertisement in that, and we're continuing to do an advertisement in that. So there are some advertising revenues that are end up happening, but they are in a problem with the cuts that have happened.
Are there any other people who wish to make a question or comment? Yes, go ahead.
on Ford, and I'll actually introduce myself. Emmanuel United Church here in Brampton. I forgot to do it the other times I talked. I'd like to speak in support of this motion. My wife has worked in educational publishing her entire life, and the costs of running a magazine, whether it's in print or electronic, still involves creating that original content. And yes, I am a subscriber to the Broadview magazine, and I do appreciate its articles. It's done articles recently on climate change, whole issue on it. So it's a valuable resource, and developing that original content doesn't come cheap. You need to pay those people a living wage, and that's a lot of the cost, as well as printing and mailing.
Thank you. Last call. Well, Susan, you have many questions to respond to. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for lending me a pen so I could maybe jot down some of those things. First of all, the question had been asked about online, and that's already been answered. There's hard copy versions of Broadview. They're also online. In addition to online editions, they're also doing some other things online, like book reviews and things. So there is an active online presence of Broadview. The question was asked about the clarification about the amount, $80,000. Currently, they're getting $40,000. The United Church content is 80, so it would be bringing it up to the amount. That was what we were recommending, up to the content. And when we're talking about the United Church content, we are not talking about, and it's been interesting debate here about online and print versions. The content is what goes into the journalism that's required, the people on staff, the work that it takes to generate this magazine. So even if it was all online, there's still staff to be paid. And again, that point was made. A question of whether or not we were challenging General Counsel wisdom, and General Counsel had to make decisions. Yes, General Counsel does make decisions, and they do it to the best of their ability. But we are also an interactive church that works from the grassroots up. This did not start with me, and I'm not here representing Broadview either. This started with members of my congregation saying, we are concerned about the loss of the quality of journalism that we have appreciated that has been available to us through the United Church. In addition, this is a gem. It's an award-winning magazine. It's something we can be proud of as a United Church, as we have lost ground in many other places. But here is something that other churches look to as something that is a powerful, informative magazine. We should be proud of it and trying to find ways to keep it alive. So this grew out of my congregation, and I'm hoping that from what we've heard from other folks in other congregations, that we value this across the United Church. I'm not sure if I got all the questions. I think, Hewitt, you did ask about whether or not why this over other things. We're not suggesting that this is more important. We're just saying we don't want to lose it. And we hope that you agree that this is something worth keeping and worth celebrating, and using the 100th anniversary of the United Church as a mechanism to have more communication happening, more interaction with us, and digging deeper into issues that Broadview helps us to look at.
Thank you. So it has been moved by Susan Eagle and seconded by Deborah Hardwick that Shining Waters Regional Council forward the proposal SW 2024-03, support of Broadview proposal. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. I didn't mean to cut you off. One more comment.
Okay, thank you. Ruth Bram from Cummer Avenue United Church. I've been subscribing to Broadview for a long, long time, although our church does offer for the congregants a free copy. I still intend to continue my own contribution to Broadview, and I would suggest that everybody that is a member of the United Church take a look at how much they pay for Broadview, whether it's zero or through their church or whatever, and consider donating to Broadview through whatever means is available. And hopefully, with the number of people that our members of the United Church, I'm sure if we all contribute an extra $25, that's going to be a lot of money.
Want to make sure I do not miss anyone yet again. I think we're clear. All right, I will now, if there are no more questions or comments, and Susan has made her concluding remarks, it has been moved by Susan Eagle, seconded by Deborah Hardwick, that Shining Waters Regional Council forward the proposal SW 2024-03, supportive Broadview, to the General Council with concurrence. You've heard the motion before you. If you wish to vote yes on site, please raise your voting card. Online, please raise your virtual hand. And on the telephone, please use *9.
The votes have been counted.
If you wish to vote no on site, please raise your voting card. Online, please raise your virtual hand. And on the telephone, please use *9.
President, the votes have been counted.
Thank you. If you wish to abstain on site, please raise your voting card. Online, please raise your virtual hand. And for participants on the phone, please use *9.
President, the votes have been counted.
The vote is 81 for, 44 against, 4 abstention.
The motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you to the members of Grace United Church in Barrie for bringing this to the attention of the Regional Council. Our third proposal this evening is SW 2024-05, SECJRC information sharing. This proposal also originates with the Social and Ecological Justice Commission, and I'm not sure if it is Susan or someone else who will present the proposal. Sure, that's okay. In case people think that the commission doesn't have its act together, the confusion is that the individual member of the commission who originated this proposal is not a representative of the regional council. And so someone else has to actually make the presentation. You have 5 minutes. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Don Ford, as I said before, lay representative from Emmanuel United Church here in Brampton, and a member of the Social and Ecological Justice Commission, and an appointee to Regional Council. So currently, many social justice and environmental concerns are happening worldwide. We believe that there is a deep need for information on these issues to be shared quickly with communities. This information may involve swift action that needs to be taken to promote justice, just as needs for resources or calls for political responses to refugee or food and shelter crises, or ongoing lifestyle changes that are required as a response to global situations, such as those who needed to reach net zero emissions of greenhouse gases or increase biodiversity or carbon absorption. Faith communities are ideally placed to respond as conduits of information within communities because they have spaces to gather, hold positions of influence, and have human resources to activate in information sharing. Why is this important? The climate and biodiversity crises are now at a stage where they impose risk on human civilizations. Continued disregard for these situations will impact all other aspects of social justice on this planet. Wars will increase, income inequality and human displacement will increase, food shortages will increase, and widespread abuse of the powerless by the powerful will increase. The solutions also exist and have been studied extensively. People are looking for leadership on how to respond to the global environmental and social justice issues. Anxiety is leading to tension and stress in our youth, and they need to be prepared for the future and know that the adults in their lives are working towards a sustainable and equitable planet. How does this proposal help us to live into our church's commitment for equity? This proposal initiates three things: a specific contact within each faith community who can share information with the faith community, directions that guide faith communities to respond in a variety of ways within their community, recognizing that the means to act will differ from community to community. Ongoing restructuring of the information sharing in response to situational changes via mandated responses between faith community contacts and the Social and Ecological Justice Commission. How might we respond to this issue? We request that each faith community provide and update as needed contact information for a social and ecological justice response person. Create a communication piece that goes out quarterly to each faith community, and that content of this piece be vetted by the Social and Ecological Justice Commission for accuracy and validity, contain current information needed to guide social and ecological justice actions, contain clear and attainable directions on how to share this information to allow for appropriate and powerful responses to current crises. Include a range of responses that reflect the different conditions within our faith communities. Encourage ongoing updates from faith communities about the effectiveness of communication and responses. And lastly, we request that each faith community give a quarterly update on how the information sharing is working and suggestions for improvement, and that these be forwarded to the Social and Ecological Justice Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. There's now an opportunity to ask questions or make comments on this proposal. Those present in the court, please come to one or other of the microphones. Online, please raise your virtual hand or type your question into the chat to Diane. Online, Victoria Stewart, would you please unmute yourself and turn on your camera?
Thank you very much. I am a lay rep with Fairlawn Avenue United Church. We are part of the North Toronto cluster of churches, and we have a very active social justice group with co-chairs, and we are very active within the cluster on social justice and social justice communication. I am concerned, and it has been raised within our community of faith, that this is an extra bureaucratic step that will require us to spend extra steps away from our active social justice endeavors, and the fact that we are actually, in this regard, very involved with our cluster in communication. So I do not support this because I feel it is an extra bureaucratic step, and in particular, the concept that anything that went out to the congregation has to be reviewed. I find this frankly bureaucratic overkill.
Thank you. Also online, George Isaac, please unmute yourself and turn on your camera.
Okay, I'm gonna echo what Victoria just said. There are about 157 congregations in our region. That means this will generate 157 reports each quarter. I don't think anyone can digest those reports each quarter. And I think the bureaucracy involved will be enormous. So in my own although it's a nice idea, in my own congregation, I think we would have difficulty finding someone who would want to do this. So I don't know. I'm conflicted. I don't know how to vote, but I think we have to recognize that this is a considerable burden for small congregations like mine.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
Paul Shepherd, Chapel in the Park United Church. I'm in favor of the motion. Vicky sort of said it for me. If you're part of an active cluster, great. But lots of people feel isolated and they don't know what's going on. So this would be helpful for them. If you have a great social justice cluster, yeah, you don't want this. I do have a question though. What are the implications for staff time?
I'll let you respond to questions at the end. Are there any other questions or comments? Yes.
Beth Moore, Birchcliff Bluffs United Church. Yeah, I just had a question for clarification as well. I guess I read this a little differently than the previous speaker because to me it says it's the regional council that will be issuing the quarterly materials, not each community of faith. But I also wondered about the question about a mandated response and what exactly that was intended to require each community of faith to do. That's a separate issue. But on the question of the regional council preparing that, is that a staff function or is that something that your commission would be doing?
Okay, there is a comment in the chat. I will read from Jessica Stevenson. I am against this motion. Churches are lacking in volunteers and are experiencing burnout with the volunteers they do have. Not only is this another role that needs to be filled, but it is too much to ask of them to provide quarterly updates to the commission. Perhaps if it was once per year, it would be more manageable. Additionally, what will the commission do with possibly hundreds of reports that they get every 4 months? Who will be responsible for consolidating this information? Finally, who in the region would be responsible for meeting the communication piece, for creating the communication piece that must be vetted, but the commission? It seems that the commission should either be in charge of creating this communication piece at the very least. This is just too much of an ask for all involved. And online, Rosemary, I can only see MCL. Sorry, Rosemary McLeese. Please unmute yourself and turn on your camera.
Hi there. I'm from Timothy Eaton Memorial Church. My question is if a concrete example could be given for what the group feels would be something urgent that would go out to all the communities of faith that would cause them to react quickly? Because it seems to be something that they're looking for quick response to something. Is this going to be something like, okay, we're going to have a march, or we're going to, we're going to stand up for something and everybody meet at this location? I mean, I have a hard time getting my head around how this is actually going to make some difference.
Question of this mic.
Susan Eagle, Grace United Church, and the Social and Ecological Justice Commission. I guess what I want to say about this is an effort by the commission to say, how do we better connect with congregations? Things can sometimes go to a church office and not get forwarded to the right place, or perhaps land with clergy and not get to the right place. So this is a question of saying, is there someone in your congregation that we should be connecting to directly? And is that person passionate about something that they want to be keeping us informed about what the congregation is doing? And so I will apologize if the language in this seems overwhelming, and perhaps instead of request, we should be saying we welcome this. We're looking for contacts in congregations. There was a suggestion about an example. An example would be, we had a community ministries workshop 3 weeks ago that was very poorly attended. And later we found there were folks who said, I didn't know about it. So how can we better keep congregations informed about something? And we would welcome hearing back from you about things that are going on that we might then share with others. So it's really an effort to have better communication, not something that's bureaucratic, not something that's overwhelming. I see that Esther had put in a quarterly update. That's just to say, let us know what's going on, and have somebody who's tasked to really get excited about some of those issues. There was a prayer vigil walk for the Kairos walk, the Palestine-Israel Kairos walk. There were churches along that route that didn't even know that that was happening. How can we make sure that they do know those things? And if there's someone in your congregation that is passionate about it, let us know.
Thank you. At this mic.
Lawrence Nyako from Otherwood United Church. Thank you, Susan, for the clarification. And I think the region sends out occasional email about the calendar and sharing about what is happening in various communities of faith. So I believe that if any congregation has any program that is going on that they think it will benefit the region, we don't need a whole commission or a staff to do extra work, but could be added to that email list, mail out to everybody, and that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. And online, Constance Dilly.
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself last time. I'm Constance Dilly from Metropolitan United in Toronto. About the contact, this is my first meeting, but isn't the representative, the lay representative to the region, that contact person? Isn't that part of the role that we serve, to be the contact between the regional council and its commissions and our church?
Thank you. Is there another? Okay. There is a question in the chat I'll read from Penny Wilkins. What does the Social and Ecological Justice Commission do now to communicate to faith communities about your actions or decisions? Maybe quarterly, question mark?
I am the Shining Waters rep, but I'm probably the person that this should go to, but I can't open another email. I will go on Facebook. They're fast. I would share things on Facebook that I did at our church. I can't write up more reports.
Thank you. If there are no more questions or comments, I'll invite someone. Yes, go ahead.
I apologize to the court. I didn't introduce myself the first time I spoke. I'm Dale Young, a retired minister now living in Toronto. I was formerly in, well, what was Manitou Conference until it became Canadian Shield. And I'm now attending Comer Avenue United Church. I think the idea of communicating is a good idea, but I don't see how you can handle forced reports from every congregation, required reports. And I heard there was something like 187. That seems too much to try and put into a newsletter. It might be interesting to hear about some project that's going on somewhere and how it's working out. And we could report from Comer that we feed X number of meals, both breakfast and lunch on Wednesdays. And we have X number or Y number of visitor volunteers and other things like that. But I think it would be sort of redundant after we reported it 4 times a year. We do have an annual report, and I think we all work very, very hard, volunteering, cooking the meals, recruiting some volunteer lunches from some of the neighboring restaurants, and providing clothing and all sorts of other things. But I think reporting it 4 times a year to a committee is kind of useless. I think maybe what you need to do is ask for good news stories and have some kind of volunteer donations of stories for your newsletters and encouraging congregations to share something that's innovative and something that's new or something that they've tried for a long time and works really well. And we pour all our energy into it. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are you coming to ask a question? Yes.
Hi again, me, Lourdes Lumi, Davenport. Hearing this as your proposal to have a report, thank you for your comment. We don't know how kind of report. It maybe can be a piece of paper with 3-4 questions like what your community do, how many people are engaged in social and ecological justice for all migrants that we really need. If we're looking for new people, people now are looking for this, for justice and ecological change. We are in climate problems, and this is an important topic. And we need to have what you do in your church. Now I can see this church, they have full-on milkweed outside. I'm a monarch butterfly. I'm a social people, migrant, like a monarch butterfly. And I don't find house like the monarch butterflies. The only house is the milkweed. It's the only plant that provides the eggs grow. If we don't do something and we don't report who church grow milkweed outside, do this job, who is gonna do? You want kids in the church? You need to work with this. And you need to send your report and find youths to make this report. Because this is life. We need to have justice and ecological system that work to support the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. And over here.
Hi there, Alexa Gilmore, a voluntary associate minister. at St. Luke's and also on the commission. I seconded this motion because I was also hearing from so many people that there was so much good work in the church and we didn't know where it was and we didn't know how to connect and we didn't know how to celebrate. And we also were hearing about things after the fact. I also want to echo that this was intended to be invitational. And we know that of the 157, not everybody has a commission and not everybody would feed in the reports. Somebody might send a one line, somebody might send a poster, but then we can send that back out to the wider community. And one of the ways that we're planning to do that is through the Daring Justice newsletter, which just got started up again. So I think that's one of the answers to one of the questions, which was, what are we doing already? The Daring Justice newsletter will be going out, and anything that comes into us can feed back out to that. So I just wanted to add that to it.
Thank you. If there are no more questions or comments, I'll invite Don Ford to make the last comment.
Thank you, through the chair. First of all, I have to apologize for my poor reading of the how might the regional council respond to this issue, and it has to do with how the bullets are organized. It is proposed, if I read it succinctly, it is proposed that the regional council create a communication piece that goes out quarterly to the faith communities. It's the first bullet talks about having faith communities identify a contact. And the idea there is that some of us may be overwhelmed with mission work or whatever. So maybe there's somebody else that's an environmental champion or a social justice champion in the church that has some time to receive this information. The question from staff about who would create it, I anticipate that the Social and Ecological Justice Commission, the members produced the handouts that are on the back, the little cards, and then staff helped by printing them out. So we work as a partnership in terms of how to produce the communication pieces to ease the burden on staff. Oops, I'm out of time. So I guess for me, the primary thing to note is that we're just trying to encourage further communication in the church. We're not trying to be onerous, certainly not, as it may have appeared the way I read the document, that each congregation needs to create a communication piece quarterly. That would be overwhelming with 157 potential reports coming in on a quarterly basis. So the intent was one report going out to those congregations, celebrating the successes of all those congregations that are doing such great work, that we can all learn from each other, because we'd rather not reinvent the wheel when someone else has tried something and maybe found a better way to do it, or maybe wasn't successful there. Maybe we can learn from each other as opposed to expending our efforts on things that weren't successful. Thank you.
Thank you. So it has been moved by Don Ford and seconded by Alexa Gilmore. The Shining Waters Regional Council adopt the proposal SW 2024-05, Social and Ecological Justice Commission Regional Council Information Sharing as presented. You have heard the motion before you. If you wish to vote yes on site, please raise your voting card. Online, please raise your virtual hand. And on the phone, please use *9.
President, those votes have been counted.
Thank you. If you wish to vote no on site, please raise your voting card. Online, please raise your virtual hand. And on the phone, please use *9.
President, those votes have been counted.
Thank you. If you wish to abstain on site, please raise your voting card. Online, please raise your virtual hand. And on the phone, please use *9.
President, those votes have been counted.
The vote is 37 for, 48 against, and 10 abstentions.
Thank you. The motion is defeated. Thank you to the members of the Social and Ecological Justice Commission for your leadership in the region. This concludes our business today. Before we close, however, I want to inform everyone of a change to the agenda for tomorrow. In the published agenda, there was an executive proposal regarding proceeds from property sales. Wish to inform everyone that that proposal has been rescinded by the executive and will not come before the council tomorrow. However, on behalf of the executive, a motion will be introduced, not a proposal. I think the motion is shown on the screen at the moment, just so that people are aware of it. And I'll read it so that everyone online is aware. That the Shining Waters Regional Council direct the Regional Council Executive to create an ad hoc committee with the support and advice from the Communities of Faith Commission, the Grants and Mission Support Committee, and the Regional Council Finance Committee to do a region-wide consultation about regional ministry and funding priorities. The review would include input from all 4 regional commissions, all communities of faith, and Shining Waters Regional Council grant recipients, and a review of current regional council granting priorities and available financial resources. The committee will report back to the executive with recommendations no later than June 30th, 2025, and the regional council with recommendations no later than the 2025 regional meeting, October 24th and 25th of 2025. So this motion will come before us tomorrow morning. With that, we will gather tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, but the book display and other displays will be available at 8:30. I now invite Peter Hartmans to offer a blessing to send us on our way for the rest of the evening.
Let us pray together. Greater God, we give thanks for this time together. We give thanks in particular for the prayer room that has been keeping our regional council and our communities of faith and our many members in our churches and ministry personnel, lay leaders in our thoughts and prayers. We pray that as we go out tonight that we will be blessed with rest and safe travel. And I pray that you will be with us tomorrow as we talk together as a regional council. In Jesus' name, amen.